4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
The next man to lead Catholics around the world is from Chicago, making history as the first ever Pope from the United States. We hear from Pope Leo XIV this afternoon, speaking to a large crowd packed into Vatican City.
How we can together be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges, that is always open to receive everyone, just like in this square, to receive everyone, to welcome everyone.
Well, here's some background information on him. He's 69 years of age. He's a native of Chicago, and while he is American, he spent most of his career in Peru, then at the Vatican. He's fluent in several languages, including English, Spanish, Italian. I've heard he knows a little bit of French and Portuguese as well. This afternoon, we also heard from Archbishop Edward J. Weisenberger from Detroit's Archdiocese. He said in part, quote, Pope Leo XIV's election leaves me exceptionally joyful, and I must humbly acknowledge that I did not anticipate a United States citizen would be elected Pope. He went on to say, as we give thanks for his election, let us also ask the Lord to pour forth every grace of the Holy Spirit that he will know wisdom, compassion, and joy as he leads us into the future. Joining me now is Professor James Noss. He's from Oakland University's History Department, and we know Pope Francis was the only Pope from the Americas. This is the first time someone from the United States received this title. Can you provide some context for us on the relationship between the Catholic Church and the United States?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Absolutely. I, like the Archbishop, did not anticipate an American Pope, so it's pretty exciting, and I've been sort of gathering my thoughts on this a little bit. I think we've been talking a lot over the last couple of days about a Pope who needs to evangelize and grow the church, and people have naturally been thinking about Africa and Asia and the Americas, but perhaps some of us forgot about North America and the United States, which has a large Catholic population, but a Catholic population which has been shrinking and which it's a country that's increasingly becoming secular. So perhaps he's the right man to reverse that trend.
And that kind of brings me to my next question. How might the Vatican's relations with the United States change under this new Pope?
That's a really good question. This will be new territory for us because we've never had an American Pope before, of course. Most popes, you know, he's now living in Rome. He'll live in the Vatican for the remainder of his life. So I don't know how much he'll come back to the United States, but certainly he's going to be aware of the challenges faced by Catholics in the United States, and I would expect to see closer relationships in that way.
Sure. How might an American Pope influence theological discussions and decisions within the Church, do you think?
Well, I think we got a lot from him, not only in his own background, in the name that he chose. I think that name indicates that he's going to be interested in social issues. I think in his initial words today, we heard him talk about a more inclusive church, and so I think you'll see those be his guiding principles.
When you mention the name, what is it about the name? Choosing the name, you think it's
yeah,
more...
So Leo XIV, I'm presuming that he's picked Leo XIII as his namesake. I don't know that because he didn't tell us. But Leo XIII, who was the Pope at the very beginning of the 20th century, wrote extensively about the need to pay attention to things like labor and fair wages and migration and immigration. So if that's what he's picking, he's giving us some pretty clear indications of what interests him.
I see. Well, very good. Thank you for coming and providing insight. And to be fair, you weren't the only person who never thought that it would be a...
No, I think Las Vegas was also wrong, so I take some solace in that.
Exactly.
Sure, yeah.
We appreciate you providing some perspective for our viewers. Over on clickondetroit.com, you can find more information about the Pope and his historic move by the Vatican. Ahead on Local 4 News at 5, the ties he has to West Michigan and reaction from Detroit area Catholics as well. No verdict in the trial of a former Grand Rapids police officer charged with killing 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya.
What I'm going to do is declare a mistrial in this case.
After more than 20 hours of deliberation, the jury could not come to an agreement. This moment played over and over again in court.
Let go, Caesar!
The former officer's attorney argued self-defense.
Christopher Scher never wanted to take a life.
But Lyoya's family is disappointed.
He had no guilt. He didn't care that he took the life of a human being.
All right, Jacqueline Francis is here with us now. Jacqueline, you've covered this story for 3 years. Can you say that it's over? Is this the end? And if not, what comes next?
That's up to the prosecutor. The big question is, will he refile charges? If so, they would do this all again. If not, the officer walks. It was considered a big swing 3 years ago when the prosecutor charged the police officer with second-degree murder. But the prosecutor had said from the beginning the evidence is there and he could win this. It was a long trial, a week of testimony followed by 4 days of deliberation. The officer's attorneys argued self-defense. The prosecution argued Patrick Lyoya was just trying to get away from the officer. The jury could not get on the same page for a verdict. We heard from the attorneys after a mistrial was declared today. Here's what they had to say.
We cannot declare victory because there really is no winning here. A man died, and that is a very serious thing. Christopher Schur is happy that the jury didn't determine that he's criminally responsible for that death. But, you know, it's hard to say that we feel like this was a victory.
There are emotions, but, you know, I've been in hung jury where you can tell, oh my gosh, I think these people are going to kill each other. And this was not that. I didn't get that feel. There was, you know, they disagreed. There's, you know, definitely some tension, but they got along and they seemed to be, you know, really trying to make an effort.
That was Prosecutor Chris Becker right there. He's going to take the coming days or weeks to decide whether to refile charges. Patrick Lyoya's family wants them to do so, and we're going to hear from the family coming up at 6 o'clock.
And talking about the family, they do have a civil case. What does it mean for that?
It's a totally different ball game, and there's actually a lesser burden of proof when it's a civil case, so the attorneys for that say they're not worried and they're moving forward.
Okay, Jacqueline, we appreciate it. In more news tonight, the University of Michigan has named Domenico Grasso as its interim president. He currently serves as the chancellor of the Dearborn campus, where he has led since 2018 and is credited with increasing graduation rates and research funding. Grasso will lead the university during its search for a permanent president and has made it clear he does not intend to apply for the full-time role. The Board of Regents is expected to confirm the appointment at their next meeting on May 15th. Former Detroit area musician Evan Mercer is sentenced to 15 years in prison for child porn. Mercer pleaded guilty in December, was arrested last year after his ex-girlfriend provided evidence of child sexual abuse. That evidence included screenshots of explicit chats and photos of children as young as 7 years of age. Mercer was arrested the same day his band, Mac Saturn, was set to kick off a 35-date national tour. The band is no longer active. A 15-year-old faces charges after a gun goes off inside a parked school bus. It happened in the parking lot outside of Lee M. Thurston High School near I-96 in Beach Daly. Happened yesterday when police say a student brought a gun to school in his backpack. Officers tell us the teen was handling the gun and it went off, shooting another student in the hand. The school was closed today to allow students time to heal. In St. Clair Shores, a gun dealer is convicted of illegally importing, possessing, and transferring devices from Russia. Police say Chase Farmer, owner of Shall Not Be Infringed LLC, purchased 30 conversion devices, including a Russian website, between November 2020 and March 2021. He tried to conceal his purchases by using an alias and falsifying PayPal details. Investigators found only 2 devices during a search, with 28 still unaccounted for. Farmer faces up to 10 years in federal prison. President Donald Trump announced a new trade deal with the United Kingdom. The president laid out the terms of the deal at an Oval Office press conference. Under the deal, the UK will reduce what Trump calls non-tariff barriers to U.S. products. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick announced a major purchase of U.S. aircraft, saying that the UK has agreed to buy $10 billion worth of Boeing planes.
The European Union is a big thing. They want to make a deal very badly. You know, everybody wants to make a deal. Look, everybody wants to make a deal with the United States, and we're doing that, and we're going to make fair deals. I'm just honored that this was the first one.
Tariffs on vehicles imported from Britain will drop from 25% to 10%. The 10% baseline tariff on other countries will remain for now. Well, consumers feeling the impact of the tariffs. New price hikes popping up in items you may not expect. Here's consumer investigator Hank Winchester.
When we've been talking about tariffs lately, a lot of the focus has been on autos and what we could expect to pay if we have to pay more. But now we're learning about everyday products that are costing some people here locally a lot more. Take a phone case, for example. I want you to take a look at Olivia. I had an opportunity to chat with her earlier today. Now, she hopped online to a website to make a purchase for some phone cases, right? She's used this website before, not knowing that the products were made and shipped from Hong Kong. As a result, she got hit with a huge tariff fee.
The order went through, and then yesterday I got a notification from DHL, so from the shipping company, that I needed to pay an $127 tariff for them to be delivered to me.
So an extra $127 on top of the cost of the cases?
Correct. I paid $99 total for both cases and all the shipping, and then this came through.
So coming up tonight at 5 o'clock, we're going to show you what you need to be doing as you are shopping to make sure that you can try to avoid these fees. It gets a little complicated, but it could end up helping to save you a lot of money. I'm going to see you tonight starting at 5 o'clock. Hank Winchester, help me hang. Back to you.